Welcome. It is Friday, Feminine Fridays. Hi, everyone. Hi, Diane.
Hey, Laura. Hey, everyone. Hope everyone's having a great weekend. Let's start with great weekend.
Yeah. Maybe you started early, right? You have extra time on your
Exactly.
hands, maybe. Um, it's a new normal, I think, or at least temporary normal. And we're here, though, with our consistent presence, as we've always been, to propagate the feminine, to tap into it, to remind ourselves what's good in the world and how do we have the best possible relationships that we can create using this extra special power that we all can tap into. So as we do every week, I picked a card from our feminine power deck. And as you know, the pink side typically has a principle on it. The blue side has a practice, and the practices are something to do, something to affirm, or something to contemplate. So today's drumroll principle is speak the truth from love. Speak the truth from love. So this is
Nice.
big, touchy subject. I mean, you may notice what I put in the description was, are you telling the truth or are you doing communication that can actually not help your relationship? There's a difference between telling the truth and not, and like verbal vomiting could be, or otherwise. So when I say speak the truth from love, what comes to mind?
I would say that to me, what comes up to me is in the delivery. Like we want to speak what's true for us, but we also want to do it in a way that people can hear. Sometimes timing is a big issue when you are speaking your truth. So if you're coming from a place of love, you're also looking at what kind of impact am I having on the person I'm having conversations with.
Hmm. I think that brings up a great question we can ask everyone here is, how loving are your communications? How lovingly are you communicating? And it's hard when we're stressed sometimes to be loving in our communications. So I would just like to invite everybody to think about, how can you be more loving in your communications and really be sensitive to think before speaking. Um, it's come up a lot for me lately. It's like I'm having reactions to stuff and I want to say, well, I feel hurt and I feel this and I feel that. But I needed to go deeper before I actually had something to say about that, right? It's
Mhm.
like, well, what do I want? Well, I want this and I want that and this and this is bothering me. But all that does not help my relationship, right? So, but
Right.
what is it that I really want? What is it that I'm really feeling? Then what do I need? And what do I need to communicate as a result once I've gotten past the reaction? So, you
I
know,
like that distinction that you made in terms of the reaction because we want to be able to respond. And when you respond, that's coming from a thoughtful place. And then you're able to deliver in a more loving way. If we're just reacting, like if we're letting all the things happening in the world be part of that reaction of how we are now communicating with people in close, quarters of maybe our family, even with we're connecting with people out in the world, to really be clear on, are we reacting or are we responding?
and I know we've talked about that before. And even if you have something you're upset about, maybe you can just put that to the side until you get more clarity. And I don't mean like deny it, ignore it. I mean, don't communicate with somebody else about it, but keep it in something to come back to in your moments of contemplation. If you want to practice more loving communication in the meantime, um, there is a practice that we have here that I'll read. And it says, practice saying, I love you to a friend or mate you haven't said it to in a long time, or for the first time. I am finding out I'm saying I love you to my friends more often right now. Are you finding that too?
Right. Yeah, definitely. It's funny that you mentioned that because I think this is a time where we can expand love beyond just our close relationships and be like, how can we have an imprint of love in the world, through our actions? And one of the things that comes to mind is like, who are some of our favorite small businesses that maybe we can buy a gift certificate from, or we could have some delivery from, or some things that we can really help people thrive in a time where we're thinking of business in a different way. So, for instance, I have a friend of mine who owns a company called forbiddensuperfoods.com. And I'm
Mm.
just going to put that out there. In fact, I'd love for you to put it in the comments because she's a small business who's working, out of her home. And she usually went to like the markets on the weekend, but she's doing things where she's sending things out. In fact, I just had a whole delivery of stuff that came in yesterday, and I got such a sweet note saying, thank you for that. But those are some of those things that we can do to help businesses. In fact, oh my God, I'm on a roll right now. I have them nearby because they just came in yesterday. I was so
Well, let's
excited.
see.
But they got this like acai and this granola, and they're all like organic and they're sourced, and like so much love and thought went into them that it's like we still want to do the things that make our body feel alive and feel good, and also help the small businesses that are out there. I would love to hear in some of the comments who's your favorite small business, and what do you miss about being able to go in there, and how could you support them virtually to let their businesses thrive, because these are the kind of healthy kind of businesses that we want to have thrive when we move beyond this. And that's a
Hmm.
way of showing love in the world and being able to communicate that on a global level of how can we support small businesses and our friends and people through this new way of being.
Yeah, what small businesses are you supporting? Even if it's just by cheering them on online, they really want to know you're there for them right now. I was just on a call with, I just hopped on a Zoom call that one of my local massage therapists was on, and that's Back to Life Massage in San Diego. And then with Barb Miller, and earlier Pilates Room Studio here in San Diego is also putting on free on YouTube, on their YouTube channel, which is Pilates Room Studios TV. So shout out to all of you guys. And on YouTube, you can go take Pilates classes right now if you want.
Yeah.
And it's kind of fun. It's kind of fun. You can get together with people virtually, whether it's watching a replay or attending a Zoom. And I know you are very involved with the bank code. And yesterday there was a live stream of over 500, maybe 1,000 people watching, people learning about the bank code. And that was on a Facebook group. So if anybody wants that, message me. I'll send you the link to that, because they're giving away this 4-session training on the bank code, which is a way of understanding people so that you can communicate better with them. So since today is all about communication, I think it's very appropriate. you
I
know.
love it. I love
And
all the virtual classes. I think it's fun.
it is fun, right? And of course we have, when you get a deck of feminine power cards, which you can get at femininepowercards.com, you get access to replays of audios that I've done, virtual girl time, I call it. And we're doing our virtual girl time here. So that's really fun for us to do and include you all in. But really, it's speaking the truth from love is, you really want to start speaking more lovingly, right? Like how can we up our love communications? And it is about, saying I love you, and it's more than that's saying I love you. Thanks, Dana. And Dana's saying that's amazing. Yeah. So speak the truth from love. Support your local businesses. Love them up more. Love your family a whole lot. Love your neighbors without touching. This is the untouchable love time. But it's really about finding creative ways to express love too, right? Like what are the creative ways you're expressing love? If anybody has done something, I mean, we've seen. Have you seen the? There's some good things that are going on. There's one in Boston, there's one in Texas, and I'm sure there's more now that this trend has happened, who are taking photos in their neighborhood of people on their front porch. Of course, they're standing very far away, but and so they're a little bit further away shots, but they are so sweet. The family gets out on the porch, the photographer's there and takes a picture. It's called the Front Porch Project, I think, photo project, photography
Very cool.
project. There's a hashtag for that. I hear that people are singing happy birthday to each other, knocking on the door, standing far away if you know somebody's birthday. So that in-person sort of kind of connection can happen locally, but I really think that it's an opportunity to connect in new and creative ways. What have you seen out there?
Well, one of the things I love is the people who are playing music together. right? You're hearing like in different complex, like someone will start playing the piano and then someone will pick up a guitar, and just like they start these like fun little like sing offs together. That's really fun. One of the things that I started, because we have a group chat with my family where we've got like these family time cards. So like yesterday was like, who's the funniest person in your family and why? So just kind of like these fun, like engaging questions and connection, and to actually get to know people
Mm.
on a deeper level, I think is really what's been fun.
I like that. Ask engaging questions. They're not always easy to think about, but if you have any trouble, go on to any on Facebook and look at the feed at what people are asking, and then ask your friends and family in a group message or a private message,
Right.
which is
Right.
great.
Well, also, I'd like to know, like, what are some of the things that people are doing out of positivity? Like, what is like a fun, uplifting movie that you've watched? What is like a book that just really made you feel good about what's happening? Like, so what are the things that you're doing that is spreading love through positivity? And, there's a lot of fear that's floating around out there. And we know that if we can come from love, if we can be from positivity, if we can take care of our own health, then that also ripples out, and that's a powerful stance to come from when you're feeling confident and you're feeling healthy and you're feeling loving and positive. That ripples out in the world, and that actually brings the fear down.
Yeah. So, yeah, please place for us here. We'd love a favorite movie or a book or a game or activity that you're doing. I was walking in the neighborhood, and there on the sidewalk was like, "You are awesome." And then there was a riddle. Then you walked another 50 feet, and there was a riddle like, what does the ocean say to the shore? And then, so there was a question, and then you walked another 50 feet, and you got the answer to the riddle, which was nothing. It just waved. And it
That's
made
so
us laugh on our walk. So what's fun that
right.
what how can you be more loving in the world? And there's hundreds of people who are walking by that in the neighborhood. And I have a feeling it was we made up a story about this, that it was a mom who was trying to entertain their kids and went out and wrote these things and said, okay, because the first day it changed from day to day. The first day it was like, okay, walk 50 feet and then hop, make 10 hops. And then it says, good job. Now do 10 jumping jacks, and walk another 50 feet. And then it asked a riddle, and then it answered it. And then it had a final message at the end, something little silly, sweet. So my story is that a mom in the neighborhood made this up as an activity for her kid to do.
Nice, nice. I love it.
Yeah. So when you're communicating, be loving. And if you can't be loving, know that my philosophy is that you probably don't want to communicate just yet. You have some processing to do on it, so you can do that responding versus the reacting. Because when we react to our emotions, and we just need to release that emotion, that is not fair to the other person. It's really not fair to them. They're not responsible for processing your emotions. You are. But if you come to them once you've processed them with an insight, with a request, with a idea of how to connect more deeply, then I think you're going to improve your relationships, feel more connected to people. You'll be more. It's a more respectful way to deal with people, and it's a really honoring way to deal with yourself.
Right, right. Well, and also, as people are living in close proximity, you also want to have some boundaries and respect some private time for yourself. Like, you could just say, hey, I'm going to go in this room by myself and I want to have some meditation or prayer time or quiet read time, or just stare at the wall by myself, so you can gather your thoughts so that you are responding more thoughtfully versus someone being underfoot all of the time.
Right.
So, just an extra long bath, or just standing in your closet, if you have a lot of kids or things that are around you, just take those extra breaths that you can have, but just claim some extra moments so that when you do respond, it's because you've given yourself even a few seconds. Makes a huge difference in responding in a loving way.
Yeah. Because I can't tell you how many times I've just reacted, or I tried to process it in the moment with a family member or friend, and it just went bleh. I felt really icky afterwards. And I feel like I left them in a weird place too. And it didn't make me feel good about the relationship. And I treat my relationships as sacred, and I really want them to thrive, and I want to feel more connected to people. And I think that's what we all want. And so many times we just revert to this reaction and we get the opposite of what we want. So when you're, and it's really challenging right now when you're in close quarters and you can't, if especially if you're in close quarters, if you're on your own, well, there's kind of a benefit to this, right? Because you can take the time. But if you are in close quarters, honor your sacred time. Like you were saying, is like your sacred space and your sacred time. See if you can carve that out and take as long as you need. Take a bath, do something good for yourself. See if you can think of it in a different way. Don't go down a rabbit hole with this I'm right, you're wrong thinking. It's really helpful it's really easy to do that, but it's not really helpful. Right?
Absolutely.
The right, wrong, shame, blame game is really um, weak. You're really not being very courageous in your life, and you're not going to get the kind of results or the relationships you want. But if you take a little courage to look inside, to be quiet, to process your feelings, to come to find out how you can speak the truth from love. If that's the only question you can ask yourself right now, how can I speak my truth from love? Or what is it that I really want? And what is the loving way to ask that? If it doesn't feel loving, you don't go there. Don't talk yet. Just don't, please. Give it a
Just
moment. Give it a moment.
yeah, I love that about giving this space, right? Because that's where we can really contemplate what's the impact that we want to have. And then you can kind of reverse engineer going, okay, if this is the impact I want to have, what kind of things am I saying and what's that look like? So I love that as we're going into the weekend to really start asking ourselves those kind of questions about how do we want to respond? What kind of impact do we want to have? How can we be more loving? And put into some of the comments and share with us and everyone else, what are the businesses you want to support? Put the links in here. What are the movies and books and the positivity so we can keep the love moving, so we can have that positivity go much more quickly throughout the world and decrease the fear that is out there, because just one person being positive and coming from a loving space can decrease so much fear. So let's start being that beacon of light, of love versus fear.
Yes, and I love that. Be a beacon of love and light. So I'm going to put that on as in the comments, and then what can you do to decrease fear and increase love? And if you are committed to that, high five us, show us your love. We need that too. So
That's
thank
great.
you everyone for being here. Thank you, Diane, for always being here as my, my feminine power playmate.
Absolutely. Thank you, Laura, for just being part of this conversation.
Yeah.
People need to have this is the positive station to go to as people are scrolling through. You can actually stop here and feel good.
Feel
As
good.
you're moving
Y'all
through.
feeling good? Who's feeling good now? Raise your hand. And I just
All
want to
right.
say, I love you very much.
I love you too, and love all of our friends out there. And stay safe and be smart and share love.
Bye for now.
Bye bye.